Hey, my name is Ross Marquand, and I play Red Skull. You are listening to Panels to Pixels podcast. Check it out.
Hey, I have always admired what a great father you are.
Carly makes it easy.
Yeah, well, when this is all over, I'm gonna need some tips.
You already know everything you need to know. Love him, protect him, the rest,
That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. When this shit goes down, I need to know that Liana's gonna be okay. So, if something happens to me and Josie, will you take care of her?
Me? Are you sure?
Yeah, man. We trust you, and you really came through for us when we didn't have any other options. Who else would we ask?
I won't let you down.
Have no doubt.
Hey, panelers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Becky.
And this is Panels to Pixels podcast.
This is a spoiler-full podcast about Snowpiercer, Season 4, Episode 8, by Weeping Cross.
Yes, it is. And the synopsis is for this episode, Becky.
Big Alice pulls into New Eden. Layton, Josie, and Liana sit stranded in the middle of nowhere, freezing to death when a masked soldier appears. Alex finds herself in danger.
Darn that kid. She's her mother's child.
Yes, she is.
But to let you listeners know, it's always to let you know, it is a spoiler-full podcast. So if you have not watched the episode and you don't want to be spoiled, stop the podcast now, go back, watch, come back to us, and have fun. If you like to be spoiled, fine, so be it. Have fun.
Hang out.
Listen to us chatter about it, make your decisions, or just watch it and go, yeah, they were right. No, they were wrong. I don't agree with that. And that's
let us know.
And let us know, because that's what all feedback is about. So this is what we like to do here. So with that, we're going to move right into initial thoughts about the episode. So what did you think about this episode overall?
Overall, it was okay. I mean, after the last episode where it was just so much action and drama, This one, it was slow, but I appreciate it for the fact that it gave a lot of characters a chance to shine.
Yes.
And to build a little bit and get us more invested in them and what's going to happen, so that when whatever they do pull off in the next two episodes will be that much more rewarding.
I agree. And that's what really my overall thoughts are in comparison. Basically, a lot of this is world building. And we are far from the train that just keeps going and the drama built within.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the apocalyptic end, everybody. So we're at this point where it's the end of The Walking Dead. It's the end of Colony. It's the end of all these other shows that are apocalyptic in some sort of way, or new world building. And it gets to the point of drama within characterization, building of characters, or like reestablishing and showing us what the show is based upon, which is characters. The ones that we care about, Till and Audrey, Layton and Liana, and Layton's feeling about fatherhood or being a single father at this point for Liana, and fearing his future of possibly not being there for her. You got Ruth out there as well. Javi himself showing courage and courageousness and not being a crazy person. And, you know, it's showing everything that we want. It's like the way I look at Javi is the way I looked at Eugene and The Walking Dead in some ways.
Really?
Yeah. Because Eugene was a little bit out there, a little bit upset, and he was unsure of himself, whereas Javi is, you know, a little schizoid at times, if you think about it, and he's not sure of himself and how people think of him. So
yeah, he changed that this episode.
he changed that. It was a whole like 360.
I
Boom.
loved it.
I loved it. And there are certain characters. Then you got Alex. Alex, as we stated before, and my feeling is acting a lot like Melanie. Very impulsive, but she was always impulsive, Alex. We all know this, but is showing more and more. And then we get information about Melanie.
Yeah, I
don't
think,
like that.
I don't like it either. And I get it for the sake of setting up her going to try to get Big Alice without anyone getting hurt. But I also, when Wolf has the gun to her head and is like, you'll never see your mom again if you don't do this right now.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit out there. And it's like, okay, because they kind of alluded that, Melanie is gone. She died off camera, everybody. It's like, kind of like, whatever happened to Heath in The Walking Dead? He never came back.
Yeah.
He just disappeared. What happened to him? There are certain other characters in other shows that this happened to, where they were prime and they were like prominent characters. Like Heath wasn't much of a character, but there are other characters out there. It's like, oh, they're gone. I was like, what? It's like, or they do a twist and they bring them back in the end. So
which I
hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer Connelly
she was the prime figure along with Daveed Diggs for the show.
Yeah.
So to get rid of her completely, even at the very end of the show, to me, is terrible. It's bad writing. It's bad casting in a sense of, or bad funding, because it's probably payment disputes regarding within how shows are done. But if they wrote it properly, it'll work.
It can work.
It can work. But
I wrote in my notes.
We're all visual people. We want to see it.
Yeah. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see it.
Exactly. I don't want to see her dead.
I think it's kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry.
No, I just don't want to see her dead on the ground.
Yeah, we'd like to see her alive and happy.
Or her going out at that point. But it was all alluded to within words from other people in their dialogue. And that's what bothered me. I'm like, well, I want to see it.
Well, and I think Nema, I don't know if they wanted us to think that he thought he was actually fooling Alex with the BS that he was spewing to her about Gemini and all of this stuff. And, where's my mom? Oh, well, she's working on this.
Yeah.
She's working on that. Is he that stupid? Or I can't figure out. I don't think that was the best pairing and setup to get us to where we are.
You're talking about Hedwood, right?
No, Nema. The scientist guy.
That's his name? I always thought it was Hedwood. I don't know why.
No, Hedwood is the one that stole Liana.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it backwards. All right. I have a tendency of like taking notes down wrong for characters.
That's okay.
But yeah. All right. Yep. Because I thought that too, because he was all about Gemini and he was working with the soldiers. And it was kind of almost a Wilford thing with him, with what he was doing with the soldiers and with Alex at the same time. He's being a little bit two-faced.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought that right away. Yeah.
And then he, you did good point bringing up what he was saying to the soldiers. And I'm sitting here thinking, isn't he partly responsible
for
the fact that they are the way they are? And I kind of really hoped that even Hedwood, I was like, Hedwood and Wolf, I was like, I think we might see them going to the other side. I thought Wolf was going to end up helping Alex. So maybe that's why it was so disappointing for me to see him put the gun to her head and say this. It just seemed to me that because of everything, A, he caused this entire apocalypse, and B, now he's, he's just the bad guy. And I had hoped and thought that Hedwood and Wolf would show us that they might go over to the good side. I suppose they still could, but it doesn't seem like it, at least with Wolf.
Yeah. Yeah, those scenes were very interesting because you have to follow along, everybody. You have to follow along to the dialogue. You have to follow along with who's in charge, who's doing what, who's saying what, and who's setting out. Nema, I still think he's a snake in the grass. The soldiers I could see that are dealing with Big Alice are respecting the people on Big Alice and some of the people on New Eden, but they're still taking orders from Nema.
Yeah, they're still doing what he says.
But there are other people in the silo and the soldiers in the silo and everything else. So you don't know if there's going to be a huge takeover if they get changed.
Yeah.
And that's the one curious part. I'm hoping by the end, some of those soldiers cross over and help out.
I'd like to see that. I think that would add
a lot of depth to the show and showing growth amongst people. It's kind of like the Saviors with The Walking Dead when the Savior compound was overruled. Rick took over, took Negan, and then brought the Saviors in. Very much similar, and I hate using another show as a reference and tropes, but I still see it as that because I was a huge Walking Dead fan. So is Becky. But the thing is, it's a good reference point because it's another apocalyptic setting. The only difference is it's got zombies. This has what? Ice and snow. It's not dead snow. Well, that's a whole new movie that we talk about on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, hopefully during Halloween time. If you guys saw it, please don't be upset with me if you watch it and go, that was a terrible movie, because it is a terrible movie, but I just love it. It's zombie Nazis in snow. That's all I could say. Anyhow, but like I said, this is an apocalypse in where it's a deep frost and freeze, kind of like the Ice Age back in the day, whereas with The Walking Dead, it was all zombie apocalypse. And it's how you survive. And with this, you have survivors. You got survivors that want to take over another group, and a group that's surviving on their own. And it's like that constant battle between people who have their own thoughts of what a society should be. And in this case, Gemini is the end game on this, not to play into it, everybody. And Endgame is not just a Marvel thing, according to what Becca told me once. He goes, it's not that. It's always been used. I'm like, yes, it has. But I like to use the word Endgame like in Avengers Endgame. So, Gemini is something that is going to come through. We have the fear of the rockets, the explosions, the explosives that are going on. That is still a threat. But to resolve all the issues that we got from last episode, we got power back at New Eden. Yes. And I was so happy about that.
I was too. I really liked when I'm going to hit a couple of points in the show. We can discuss them.
Good.
But I liked when New Eden came back, when Big Alice came back to New Eden.
Yes.
It was really cool seeing Till and Tristan and the others who have been on that train for so long getting a chance to be outside and to see what the future could possibly be.
Correct.
And then I liked how, Javi was questioning everything after he woke up and learned, everything that happened with Ben. And then Ruth just saying that one thing, Javi says Ben did good, and Ben, his sacrifice. And then Ruth assuring Javi, hey, you've done good too. And that just seemed to just light.
It's family based. It's showing compassion. It's showing friendship. It's literally holding each other up and showing a society of building. And that's what I do enjoy about that, because it's like, we do get more of that familiar of wanting of growth. And like I said, this is about a show about characters and how they've grown, of how they really get our hearts. Like the whole Till and Audrey back together, that scene was hard to watch, but there was hope in it, especially when Layton himself says to Till, take her out, show her the town, show her New Eden, get her outside. Even though, because Audrey still feels ashamed because she's burned, she's not feeling beautiful. She's not.
And that was her whole existence.
That was her whole existence
voice
before,
and her face,
which we kind of got from the previous episode when Ruth brings out the record of Audrey and has her image on it, and Till listening to her voice. Maybe her future is more about her voice. Her voice could come back. The smoke inhalation and everything else that had happened to her could go away, and she could have a future. You don't have to be the prettiest person in the world to make beautiful music or have a beautiful voice.
Right. Beauty's not just
skin deep.
Yeah. There's way more to it.
Exactly. And I think that's literally what they were giving with us, with the way Till was with Audrey in this particular episode and these scenes, which I really do enjoy, because Audrey was beautiful physically before, and at this point, she's a little burnt. I'm not saying she's ugly at all. It's like I've dated women that had scars or some sort of an appendage missing or something of that nature. But it's like, it's basically telling you we're all human. We all have our differences. And I think Audrey really needed that kind of reality boost. And
I think she needed Till to see her and
who she is.
And then be like, look, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm here. I love you, all of you. And I think that helped Audrey see, because if that had been Wilford and Wilford had seen her, he would have tossed her aside. Because that's all that matters. And that's all she knows is somebody, her face and her voice. That's all that she was good for.
It's all about the presentation.
Yeah.
And honestly, we all know about this about Wilford. Well, he's no longer here. It was all about...
I still think he's coming back.
That is true. Sauron will come back. Well, not to point a reference to Lord of the Rings, even though Sean Bean's was in Lord of the Rings. But regardless, it's a possibility. Maybe he comes back and it's a good way. Who knows? Maybe he's the one there, an arm in arm with Melanie.
Yeah. They've got a plan.
Or she's got a gun to his head. Who knows? We don't know what the plan is. We have 2 more episodes, everybody. But that really got me. I love the whole Till and Audrey scene, what Layton had to do. And just to give you a feeling about how family is, who they are, how they are, I have a scene queued up here that I spoke to Becky before we started recording. I wanted to share it because of literally what happens within the scene, because it's literally Layton, and I'm forgetting this guy's name, but he's always been there, but I remember him from the very beginning. I had it written down, and I did
Roche.
Yes, Roche. There you go. Got it. But they were always at odds in the very beginning of the series, and then now it's like best buds. But I'm gonna show her what I have, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And with that, here it is.
Some tips.
You already know everything you need to know. Love him, protect him, the rest.
That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. When this shit goes down, I need to know.
I gotta change that. Hold on. And we're gonna start out here. It's Layton literally coming up to Roche about kids.
Shoot. See you later.
Didn't have that queued up. Of course, I went back too far.
Hey,
I have always admired what a great father you are.
Carly makes it easy.
Yeah, well, when this is all over, I'm gonna need some tips.
You already know everything you need to know. Love him, protect him, the rest.
That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. When this shit goes down, I need to know that Liana's gonna be okay. So, if something happens to me and Josie, will you take care of her?
Me? Are you sure?
Yeah, man, we trust you, and you really came through for us when we didn't have any other options. Who else would we ask?
I won't let you down.
Have no doubt.
Big hug. I love
good
that.
one.
I love that scene. And yeah, I'm sorry, listeners, if well, it's not something you could really see as much, but here. But in the event that we do actually go streaming at one time in the near future, you might be able to see some clips. Hopefully, I'll be a little bit more prepared. But yeah, that really touched me. Not only did that touch me, but the Till and Audrey scene touched me. And the very beginning intro with Javi.
Yes.
And his introduction and his talking about everything.
And doing it in Spanish. I love
that.
They did that in Spanish.
They did the cultural background and giving us that cultural feel in it. And I do love when they do that. Now, mind you, I do watch a lot of Japanese movies. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, as most of you, all you guys know. I'm a kaiju fan. And I don't mind reading subtitles. But with this, it really got to me when reading the subtitles, especially when he talked about how many cars at the very end.
Yeah.
And they kept it to a T of how they talk about the intro for every time they do this.
It's so good.
Love it. But the thing is that it's his perspective of everything and how everything is going. And it's a lot of it is like there's a little his concerns and hopefulness all at the same time. But later on, he does come out later on about letting Big Alice come through.
Yeah.
Actually, somebody else suggested it, and he goes, "Oh, that's a great idea." And then just that way, because they thought, okay, they're just going to barrel in anyway, and it's like, well, let them right through.
Yeah,
like the Trojan horse. Let them.
Yeah, I liked the group coming together to plan.
Yeah,
and I really liked them bouncing everything off of each other. To add on to your Layton moment and his growth and that really nice conversation that he had with Roche.
Yeah.
The one that really stood out to me is when he and Josie are talking and she tells him that the fighting would be brutal. And he responds with, "I know, the town showed up for me. Now I need to show up for them." I think that was such a nice show of emotional growth for him after he had been so selfish for so long.
Yes.
And that at this point, he finally acknowledges these people have given everything for me. It is time I return the favor.
Well, you're talking about Roche at this point, right? Or are you talking
Layton
about...
said that.
Layton. Okay. Yeah. Well, he has been selfish, as we all know.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But he's saying they showed up for me. I'm going to show up for them. And I think that was
it's kind of
that
like
was big.
it was like a Rick Grimes moment. Like,
Yeah.
think about it. And everybody coming to help him for the bridge before it
Yeah.
exploded.
Oh, the bridge.
The bridge. Another Javi moment that I really did. I love this moment. Him feeling responsible, and he's on the train, and he's just being honest with himself as to what has to happen. But then he sees Ben's
He reaches
initial
up and touches
car,
the bead.
touches it. To me, that was like, amazing.
That was
it's all about hope and praise.
This episode gave us a lot. If you don't mind, it's going to be a little bit long.
Go ahead.
But I am a crier when TV gets me, and this moment got me. And so I wrote down what everyone said, but when they're all having their quote unquote last drink before everything starts, and Ruth says, let's, make a toast. And they each give the name of someone who's been lost. And Oz toasts Zara for showing kindness to an outsider. Ruth toasts Ben, who gave his life so we could fight for ours. Sykes to the Warriors. If it weren't for them, there would be no life off the train. And Roche toasts the lost souls of New Eden. May they find their way home. Layton to those we found. They're the future of this place. And all together they say to New Eden. That destroyed me. That was one of the most beautiful, sweet TV moments ever.
Yeah. It's one in a few that you do get on TV and moments, but to see and hear those things and how well written certain scenes, you could watch a whole episode and be like, oh, that sucked, except for that one scene. So yeah, I think there's certain moments, but the one thing scene that bothered me is with Alex coming back into town and then seeing her.
It didn't seem
real.
Exactly.
It's like, did she betray us?
Yeah, and do they? I could have done without that whole thing.
It's like with the soldiers, the way they look with their uniforms and everything and helmets, it's like a Resident Evil kind of movie at that point.
Yeah. But Alex is her mother's daughter.
Yeah.
And I am 100% certain she knows what she's doing. And as much as a horrible of a human being as Wilford was, he had a lot to teach in the art of manipulation and sneakiness and whatnot. And then she's got her mom's, drive and persistence. So I feel
Very
like
true.
she is going to be the catalyst that sets this whole, what I want to call, I don't know,
coup,
fighting back, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think she's gonna get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's going to make a big change. We left on a bit of a cliffhanger with that. For the next episode. But that's all I had when it came to notes. I really did enjoy a lot of these scenes. Javi really touched me in this, and the change in him really gave me a lot of hope for the show and how it will end. Same thing. Alex, not so much, but Alex, I'm like, well, it's Alex. And then Layton, the heartstrings just keep touching, because literally it's his story if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how Rick Grimes was to The Walking Dead. Layton is to Snowpiercer. So I look at it that way, or The Witcher for The Witcher. There are certain shows that adhere and cling to specific set people and that are leads. In this case, it was with this show, it was originally Melanie and Layton, but we haven't seen as much of Melanie when it came for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah,
but
I hope we get that.
They've been resolving that with giving us glimpses of her, and Jennifer Connelly has been showing up as that character. And like I said, I don't think this is going to be the end that we see of
No,
Melanie.
I definitely not. I have one more point.
Sure.
And I just completely lost it. Where is it?
You got to read it.
Oh, okay, Roche.
Yeah.
I cracked up so hard that every time he tried to tell his story, he'd get cut off by somebody wanting to do something else or whatever. And then he does, he in true Roche fashion, he tells this funny story, which did lighten the moment and kind of inspired the group to be ready to fight on for New Eden.
Yeah.
But I feel like after he got done, I was like, okay, what isn't he saying? And I feel like it's something important that he's left out or that has been discussed off scene that we aren't seeing that's going to be a huge plus for the New Eden folks when the battle gets heavy.
He knows something.
I feel it. Yes.
He's hiding something. He's there in the back of his mind, all hopeful about something that's like a secondary unit,
I'm excited about that. I hope I'm right. I hope
That'd be
there's
great.
something more there.
It'd be great because it seemed like he was holding back to some degree, but it was like he was always being taken away from somebody.
Yeah. That's it. That's all the points I have.
That's all I have. I don't have any additional notes. But do you have any quotes? I have none. But,
I do. I have
cool.
One short one and one long one because we all know I like the super long quotes. The first one is when they're on the radio with Big Alice, and Sykes just says, "Come on home, Big Alice." That was, I think, the start of the happy, hopeful stuff. And then the last one is Audrey talking to Till. We're living on borrowed time, and Audrey says, "I want you to be smart on how you use it." And then I said that was the last one, but this one really is. Till talking to Layton about Audrey and New Eden, and Till tells Layton something's off. Layton says probably our impending doom, and Till says, "Yeah, no, that feels surprisingly normal." I thought that was hilarious that impending doom feels normal. Cool. So that's all I got. And it was nice to see Beky back.
Yeah, that is true.
So that's it. That's all I got.
All right. I think we covered a lot already on this particular episode. Sometimes these go quick, sometimes these go long. Depends on how much we have to say. Yeah, we're at the end of the podcast, but we're going to move into some things like podcast recommendations. If you have any, Becky, go ahead, send them out. It could be anything. It could be our friends at Podcastica, Wilhelm, anything that you've been listening to, whatever you like.
I just finished the group doing, finally finished the Ted Lasso wrap up. But who is it that does that?
That would be Ben Beck and Kristen.
Thank you.
And they did they did Ted Lasso on Wilhelm, which is a that whole revisited. We have to go back. Ted Lasso. that was a podcast and Wilhelm podcast collaboration.
It was
And
good.
and they're going on to The Good Place.
I know. I'm very excited about that.
I'm interested in that. So if you liked what Ben and Kristen had to do, because Ted Lasso is a feel good kind of comedy show that came out during the pandemic that we all in Jason Gabassi's little podcastica Patreon got to love and enjoy together and talk about a lot. So yeah, it's a plug for Jason and Podcastica, but also listen to Wilhelm because Ben's not only just doing The Good Place with Kristen, but he's also doing more stuff, more interviews. He's going to be doing something since we lost James Earl Jones, who is like a big legend in theater and film and TV. He's going to do a retrospective on him on his podcast, Wilhelm Only. So check out the Wilhelm podcast. He'll probably yell at me if I got it wrong, but it's Wilhelm. Just look up Wilhelm. And if you want, you could easily go to podcastica.com to find the revisited podcast as well. But there are other links there to bring you to Wilhelm. Definitely check in for The Good Place. I'm going to be watching. I've never watched The Good Place.
No way.
So
I think you're going to really like it. It is a very unique.
So yeah, I think it's pretty cool because I started watching Chuck and I never watched Chuck at all until recently because it became available on Max. And I just breezed through a lot of it. I because I don't have regular TV, everybody. I don't have regular cable or anything like that. So I just whatever is on streaming that is pretty cool. And there's like TV series I've never even seen. So I was like, oh, Chuck. I had one episode because I downloaded it free from iTunes when it was, I think in the early days when it's like, here, we're going to give you the first episode free. I've had it. But then I was like, I've had it in my Apple TV. I had it in my iTunes, but I didn't watch the rest of the series. I grew to really enjoy it. So I did watch the first season solidly. The second is sporadically because you'd be in and out of sleep when it's on at night or whenever you wake up. And it's like, why am I on episode 8 when I was just watching episode 4? So you kind of miss certain things. But this is one that I'm going to follow along with Ben and Kristen on with The Good Place when they do that for Revisited. So I'm looking, and Ben actually mentioned it to me and messaged me through the comment section saying, hey, yes, follow along and do send in feedback. So
yeah,
I'll try to send in feedback to that, and I will definitely follow along. I think it's a good thing because sometimes, it's like, look at Snowpiercer. It's kind of down and tawdry. It's like, oh, it's all this drama. It's drama. We do like drama. We do like horror. We do like all this stuff. Obviously this is Snowpiercer is more about like a comic or a French comic adapted to a show or movie, which we actually did cover the movie. But the thing is that now we're coming to its end. It was only a series of trades over the years. So if you're out there, go to Amazon.com and check out all the trades for Snowpiercer. Get the English versions, or if you could read French, get the French version. So anyhow, cheap plug on that. But the thing is that we do like our comedies out there, or we just like to bash things too, like we'll do on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. Just a cheap plug right there for us when we do Mayfair Witches season 1. But we're gonna just do that as one whole episode, everybody. So Becky, myself, Billy, Lara, Danny, we're all gonna have fun. Just I don't know. Billy will have more information than anybody, and then Lara will be there too. But I'll be watching it going, what am I watching?
I started the rewatch just to be fresh, and I got 4th episode. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I started
watching. I have to keep watching?
Well, I watched the first. I started watching the first season. I didn't get past episode 4. And I did not get past episode 4. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to binge watch it in one day as much as I can. Boom.
That's good.
You got AMC Plus. It's a lot easier to do because there's no commercials, everybody. Just leave it on. So if I'm doing the dishes, doing my laundry, or doing whatever around the place, I'll have it on. I'll just watch it casually. sit down on key moments going, what am I watching? Or, okay, that's interesting. And then I have to ask Billy about that. Did that work in the book? So you'll get me asking Billy a lot of questions and me going, oh, that's terrible. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how different the show is from the book. And I think that might be where the show went wrong.
I think the show did go wrong completely. Interview with a Vampire, which we also covered on Adrenaline Cinema podcast, everybody, that did very well because the way they adapted that in comparison to the original Anne Rice book, I thought was done very well. Very creatively, very inclusive with all culture, everything. And I really did enjoy it. And I highly recommend it. So if you haven't listened to our coverage, go to Adrenaline Cinema Podcast and look for Interview with a Vampire, or it's on House Podcastica as well, if you're a Podcastica listener. So just to give a cheap plug for that too, podcastica.com. And if you're interested in how like Becky and I got to know each other, that was through Jason Kabasi's Patreon through his Podcastica fandom, which is his Patreon. So that's patreon.com/Jason Kabasi. So you could do that and then check us out there. A little other side note for Panels to Pixels of what we will be covering eventually. Well, apparently they pulled The Crow out from The Crow 2024 out of the theater. So Lara and I will probably eventually be doing that within the next 2 weeks. Just for fun. So you can hear us. We'll just try to schedule that out. We'll leave you. It's going to be available for digital download for you to purchase or rent on the 14th of September. So by the time you get this, it will probably be around that time. So you could either rent it, buy it, because it didn't make that much money. It only made $10 million at the box office, everybody. So we're going to compare it a little bit to the original movie, The Crow, as well as the comic that both me and Lara did. So, and then we're going to reminisce about that a little bit. And that's about it. And obviously, and this is where it leads us into where listeners could hear me. You can hear me here in Panels to Pixels as always. Becky and I will always be here doing Snowpiercer for the remaining part of the season, which we only have 2 more episodes. But you could also hear Steve Brown and I as we continue our coverage about Umbrella Academy Season 4 as well. And yes, we know we're a little late to the game, but we're giving you those episodes weekly. So you got an episode this week too. And you'll have another one coming up. Anyhow, other than that, Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, as always, Panels to Pixels podcast for me, and Filmtropolis when that comes back with Rob Moda, Frank Rodriguez, Adam Gonzalez, and myself. So there are 3 Latinos and the 1 crazy white guy. Anyhow, other than that, you could go to piratecarentertainment.com and you can check out all the cool links. I'm hoping that before the new year, I'm getting the website up and 100%. But
awesome.
We'll see what happens. I'm going to talk to a few people. Obviously, Becky, you could be heard here, right?
Yes. Anywhere Mark will have me, I'll be there.
There you go. All right. Well, we mentioned feedback earlier, and as always, you could always send feedback through our Facebook group, which would be facebook.com/Panels to Pixels. I always put out a little picture saying feedback for whatever we're covering, whether it be Snowpiercer, Umbrella Academy, The Boys when it was out, the whole thing. The Boys we kind of held off on. We'll probably do an overall evaluation between myself and other people. On that. We haven't covered this season, oddly enough. Steve didn't feel comfortable enough to talk about it because there was so much going on within it. We could talk about that slightly. I would only give it a 45-minute podcast, if anything, because I had my issues with it as well.
Yeah.
But we'll brief over it and have an idea. So we'll have fun. So maybe Becky and I could do that just for fun.
Yeah.
But as always, like I said, facebook.com/panels to pixels. We leave the image of what we're covering. Leave the comments down below. You could always use Facebook Messenger. I will get that information as well. And then I could utilize that to put into our notes. It also follows through because obviously Facebook and Instagram work hand in hand, and it's going to be the same thing. You leave the message in Instagram as well. When I put it up and post it, it will be there. I can read those comments. If you feel that you don't want to do that, you want to email us, all you have to do is email us at panelstopixels1@gmail.com. Write out a regular texted email and send it out the old digital snail mail way that we used to do everything. So panels is spelled out as always. 2 is spelled out TO, pixels, and the number 1@gmail.com. And then all you have to do is send that out to us. We'll read it, we'll comment and have fun. Or if you're very creative, everybody has all these cool things, nifty new gadgets that we've had for well over 10 years now. These smartphones that could record your voice. Just record your voice and then send it as an attachment onto an email. And then we'll play it and you can be part of the podcast.
Yes.
If you want to be part of the podcast, all you have to do is email us as well. It's like, hey, I want to suggest, Mark, I want to talk about Spider-Man and his amazing friends. I'm more than willing to do it. Just let me know. I don't know many people that really want to talk about the other different versions of the cartoon versions of Spider-Man that came out or the Hulk and interesting things like that nature. Let me know if you want to be on. All that's required is headphones, a decent microphone, and a decent internet connection. And that way we do this right on Zoom. We can be found on YouTube. So obviously, if you're listening to us on any podcast player of choice, you could also hear us on YouTube podcasts. You could hear us on regular YouTube, and you could leave comments. I'll read those comments. We've had them before. And yes, some of them were not so nice. But honestly, honesty is the best policy. And
It sure is.
So somebody had said to me when they saw the Kevin Smith interview going, wow, that was awkward. Well, yeah, it was a little awkward. But I did it. Did you? That's all I could say. Anyhow, that's not being a jackass. It's just me being honest. Anyhow, while you're there at YouTube, always hit the subscribe button. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified. So that way some people like to watch it on their Apple TV, or they do the Apple Podcasts on their phone, or the YouTube through their phone. Not Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, I should say. Sorry. Anyhow, but you get notified and you can play them as they always are. So, yeah, that's about it. And then within all the other podcast player choices, just like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, is that if there's a rating or review, please do so. 5 stars are always appreciated and endorsed. Please give us a 5 stars, but be honest. And if you can, please put a comment in there, because those are most noteworthy, as well as telling a friend, because word of mouth spreads the word. Whether you like it, you don't like it, you never know. I could be the Howard Stern of podcasting, and people don't know what I'm going to say next, and they have to keep listening. Anyhow, what do we have next week, Becky?
Next week, we are covering Snowpiercer Season 4, Episode 9, entitled Dominant Traits.
Woohoo!
I know, that piqued my curiosity. I'm interested to see what that's about.
I think there's a lot of hostility just in that title alone.
Right.
Oh, all right. Well, that wraps up our coverage of Snowpiercer Season 4, Episode 8. And I just want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Becky.
Same podcast, different panel, different pixel. This was Panels to Pixels podcast. And we'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.